The crackle of the fire, the smell of toasted marshmallow, warm under blankets, but the morning breeze quite cool. The earth under your feet, grass, mud, moss, leaves. Next to you, the night song of the grasshopper. In the distance, the sudden sound of a geyser, covering the waterflow of the river. A reassuring voice of a friend. Wake up, hatchling, it's time. And then you open your eyes. In the night sky, you can see Giant's Deep. You heard many stories about it, a gas planet full of oceans and violent storms. You've never seen it in real life, but you might today. So, did you sleep well, future astronaut? Today is gonna be your first space trip. Don't forget to look for the launch codes. You nod while smiling, feeling excited and stressed at the same time. Then you get up and walk back to the village. Morning life has already started. The chatter of children playing hide and seek, doors flying open, and all the good morning around. After saying hi to your friends and family, you go to the village museum in order to get the launch codes. Right at the museum entrance, there is this statue, a statue of a Nomai. Nomai are what drove you and your predecessors to explore space. They are a species with 3 eyes and a hairy, goat-like body. But most of all, a species with a great intelligence that has yet completely disappeared from your solar system, only leaving dead bodies and ruins behind. You are the first Earthian to travel with a translation tool. You're going to be the first to understand the lives, their goals, and why they disappeared so suddenly. You are now in front of a huge puzzle, a rocket, a whole universe to explore, and the galaxy's greatest mystery to solve. But first, you get the launch codes. People wish you a safe journey, and just as you're about to leave, something weird happens. The Nomai statue of the museum. It's opened its eyes. It feels like this statue took your memories since you got up. It was incredible, almost unbelievable, and that's it. Nobody believes you when you say the statue has awoken. So what can you do? Well, nothing. Today is the day. You're going into space. A whole solar system is waiting for you. The Hourglass Twin, Timber Earth, the Idleworld, Brittle Hollow, Hollow's Lantern, Giant's Deep, Dark Bramble, and the Interloper. All these planets to explore, so why don't you forget this random strange statue? You want to forget about it until you die, because yes, you died. At the end of your first trip, you necessarily died. For instance, look at your rocket, made of food and patched up, so easy to crash, and that's not all. When you land on planets, anything can kill you, dying by falling, suffocating from a lack of oxygen, being buried by sand, devoured by monsters, or even intoxicated by a gas called ghost matter, which comes from this green crystal that you can find all over the system for an unknown reason. But okay, let's imagine you managed to survive despite all these dangers. This is still inevitable. 22 minutes after you take off, the sun explodes. A supernova, the end of the world. However, it's not the end of your story. You know you are dying, but somehow the same strange sensation comes back. You see your memories racing in your mind, and again the mask of the Nomai, just like what happens at the museum. Then you wake up at the same time and in the same place as in the beginning. The crackle of the fire, the smell of toasted marshmallow, warm under blankets, but the morning breeze quite cool. And no. It can't be. You are dead. You were dead. Why are you still alive? You remember. You've already said goodbye to your friends. You've got the launch codes. You've climbed into your rocket. And 22 minutes after, you've witnessed the end of the universe. So you died. But now you're living again? You want to get back into your rocket, but your friend asks you, hey, don't be in a hurry. You have to get the launch codes before you take off. Alright, he doesn't remember. You slowly understand. It seems like you've gone back in time and only your memories have been saved. Then, everything repeats. You return to your rocket. You continue to explore space. You always end up dying and being resurrected here in front of the campfire. All of this means you are stuck in a time loop. You are going to live the same 22 minutes, always ending by the explosion of the sun. Nevertheless, thanks to the Nomai statue, you can remember what happened in the last loop. You are the only one who knows that the sun will explode at the end, the only one who can save everyone. You are the protagonist of history. You have 22 minutes in a loop, which should be enough time to stop a supernova. Good luck. Here we go. You can't fear death now. You have all the time you need. You start your investigation, you visit each planet and find out its mysteries. You meet other travelers of the Outer Wilds Ventures, gather tons of information, discover incredible phenomena and impressive buildings. You might be stuck on some puzzles, but when you finally find the right answer, the feeling of pride and satisfaction makes you forget about all your previous difficulties. Sure, it is not easy at first. Everything you learn seems a bit confusing, but after a while, you start to connect pieces of information, and little by little, you retrace the Nomai's history. The Nomai are originally a nomadic people. They were used to traveling from galaxy to galaxy in their spaceship, the vessel, thanks to a technology called a warp core. The warp core is one of the most important Nomai inventions. It can transport information, living beings, and objects from one place to another. It consists in creating a black hole and a white hole at specific coordinates. The Nomai are explorers, ready to do anything to quench their thirst for knowledge. One day, a Nomai clan picked up a strange signal that they called the Eye of the Universe. It was really weird because the signal was older than the universe itself. How was it possible? The Nomai tried to follow the signal whatever the cost. Unfortunately, a problem occurred. The signal disappeared and the vessel crashed inside a planet called Dark Bramble. Dark Bramble is a foggy place where space follows no rules. Not to mention the giant and scary fish who eat any living being around. After the crash, the Nomai fled in 3 escape pods. Let's start with the third one. Unfortunately, it didn't make it out of Dark Bramble. The Nomai stuck on Dark Bramble tried to get out, or at least to come back to their crashed spaceship. Despite all their efforts, they never succeeded and ran out of oxygen. It was harsh for you to discover this Nomai graveyard. But it is not the only escape pod you have found throughout the trip. The second one is landed on Ember Twin. Ember Twin is the closest planet to the Sun, with a surface so warm that the Nomai had to take refuge underground. Ember Twin orbits around another planet, Ash Twin. Together, they form the Hourglass Twins. Like an hourglass, they are linked by a flow of sand. At the start of each loop, you could visit the underground galleries on Ember Twin. You had to be careful, because it gradually fills up with sand. On the other hand, Ash Twin is unexplorable towards the end of the loop, when all the sand is gone. Like an hourglass, the moment you land or the time spent on Ember Twin and Ash Twin will impact your discoveries. And now, the last escape pod, It crashed on Brittle Hollow. Brittle Hollow is a planet that looks normal at first, just not many buildings on the surface. That's because it's very unstable. A volcanic moon called Hollow's Lantern is throwing out balls of lava on Brittle Hollow. At the end of the loop, almost all the surface is destroyed. Yet, it reveals what is the most important and the most beautiful thing on this planet: the hollow and crystal-like interior. How unsettling it is to visit Brittle Hollow. You walk on the walls, buildings are hanging from the ceiling, and if you fall inside a black hole, which is the core of the planet. During your journey, you might have fallen into the black hole more than once. Luckily, the Nomai had considered this possibility. When you fall into a black hole, you come out of a white hole. However, the white hole is kind of far from Brittle Hollow. In order to come back to Brittle Hollow, the Nomai built a station using the technology of the warp core, so it works just as a teleporter. But when they started to use it, the Nomai noticed a strange thing. The time of arrival on Brittle Hollow was slightly earlier than the time of departure from the station. This means you arrive 1 millisecond before you left. You go back in time. And this phenomena opens up a wide range of new possibilities for a nation of inventors and scientists. But for what use? Well, the Nomai never forgot about the eye of the universe, the signal older than the universe itself, the signal they tried to reach before the crash. In fact, when the Nomai landed in the escape pod on Brittle Hollow, they built a temporary settlement. The first thing they did was drawing on the wall the symbol of the eyes. Then they drew the crash of the vessel, and finally they wrote the names of the loved one they had lost. The Nomai were truly obsessed with the eye. They built altars dedicated to it on Brittle Hollow and Ember Twin. Yet it wasn't enough for them. Their initial mission was to find the eye of the universe. Even if they lost a part of their crew, they couldn't just give up. The signal was maybe forever lost, but there was still hope. First, they tried to locate the eye thanks to a tracer on Ember Twin, then with a giant observatory on Brittle Hollow. But in both cases, it didn't work. After this failure, they discovered that you can go back in time with the warp core. They tested it in a laboratory located on Ember Twin. This is what they found out. You can't teleport in space through a black hole and a white hole, created by little warp cores. But when you put more energy into these warp cores, the time interval between the departure and the arrival becomes negative. In other words, the more energy you have, the further back in time you can go. The Nomai then wondered if it was possible to create a negative time interval of 22 minutes. Wait, 22 minutes? Like the time of the loop you stuck in? Does that mean that the time loop is because of Nomai technologies? But most of all, 22 minutes is an ambitious project. To go back in time by just 1 or 2 seconds, you need the energy of an entire city. To go back 22 minutes in time, you would need, well, a supernova? No, the Nomai couldn't have, they wouldn't have blown up a sun, would they? There is a sun station in orbit around the sun. It contains a lot of answers to your questions. To go there, you have to land first on Ash Twin. This planet full of sand is hiding the most important secrets of the Nomai. Ash Twin was chosen by them to hold the project to find the eye of the universe, called the Ash Twin Project. They designed several towers on the surface of Ash Twin. Each has a warp core that can teleport you to a planet. They used it to transport materials and themselves in a faster and easier way. One of the towers leads to the sun station. Inside, you learn that the Nomai built the sun station in order to shoot on the sun and make a supernova. Why? It is a fair question. The Nomai wanted to locate the eye of the universe without losing too much time. The Ash Twin project was built in the center of Ash Twin, only accessible by using a teleporter. This project contains a warp core just like the one they used in their vessel. The project consists in launching a probe into space at great speed in a random direction, hoping that it would eventually locate the eye. But if one probe has almost zero chance of finding the eye, launching 1,000,000 probes in all directions is guaranteed to work. So, at the start of each loop, a probe will be launched. Then, after 22 minutes, the data will be collected in the Ash Twin project. The sun station receives the order to shoot the sun so that it explodes. The energy caused by the supernova activates the warp core, which goes back in time to launch a new probe in another direction, and so on. The coordinates of the eye have been discovered. The statues will make the Nomai aware of the loop so they can stop it. In other words, the statue in the museum, the one that stared at you and seemed to take your memories, in reality, the statue was telling to the first living being around the success of the Ash Twin project, making you the only one aware of the 22-minute loop. But why only now? If the Nomai created the Ash Twin project thousands of years ago, why is the loop only happening now? In fact, when you go to the sun station, you learn that it has never worked. It fired on the sun, but that wasn't enough to create a supernova. The Nomai had created the perfect plan to find the eye of the universe. They were on the verge of completing the Ash Twin project. Except that without a supernova, there wouldn't be enough energy to activate the project. The last possibility of the sun exploding was to wait for its natural end, but that would take thousands of years. And there you are, thousands of years later. You slowly understand. The Ash Twin project has been activated now because it's the end, the natural end of the sun. But not just your sun. Millions of suns and stars, the whole universe. You can see it since the beginning. When you look up in the sky at the end of any loop, you can see the explosions of distant stars. This is it, the end of the world. Soon there won't be a single living thing, a single planet, a single star. You and the Earthians may even be the last living species in the universe. And somehow, it is thanks to the end of all things that the Ash Twin project succeeded and the eye of the universe was found. But the Nomai will never learn about their success. They all died when a comet called the Interloper came and spread phantom matter. You know, that deadly gas that you can find throughout the solar system, but which has now almost completely disappeared. You thought it was only there to make puzzles harder to solve. How could you know that this was the weapon that had killed one of the most advanced peoples in the galaxy? Since you woke up next to the campfire in the first loop, you always experienced this feeling. Each time you were overwhelmed by the greatness of the universe and its mysteries. Every time you solved the problem, you were immediately flooded with twice as many questions. When you start to explore a planet, it seems so big, so hostile, and you'll die on it more than once, even if you take precautions. And whatever you do, after 22 minutes, you'll be dead. When you finally understand the Ash Twin project and the history of the Nomai, you realize that the world will always be bigger than you. All this genius is out of your reach. You just walk past the Nomai statue at the wrong time, and you shouldn't be the one who's aware of the loops. You're not a scientist, engineer, or inventor. You're just a young astronaut going on a mission for the first time in your life. Except that this first time is already too late. You had to start your life at the end of the universe. So, what can you do? There's no way of stopping the end of the world, because that's the way things are. What will you do? Continuing the loops would be pointless, but stopping the Ash Twin project would mean the final end of everything. So much power in your hands, and yet you feel powerless. Powerless is the right word to describe how you feel. Powerless is what you are and what you have always been. Powerless against the world, powerless against nature, powerless against time. Time loops are just a way to push back the world's deadline. But is it really so bad to be powerless? Powerlessness is also about accepting things as they are. Sometimes you can't force things, you can't control everything, so you have to let nature take its course, as it has done since the dawn of time. There you are, watching the galaxy dying, counting from 22 to 22. Perhaps the true end is a culmination of its acceptance. You remember your friends from Timber Earth, your discoveries on the planets, all the tragic and funny moments you've lived, the crazy Ash Twin project, and the dream of the Nomai, the eye of the universe. You never thought your life would be so short and so hectic. You made your decision. You take the teleporter to go inside the Ash Twin project. You removed the warp core. You've got 22 minutes and no more second chances. Without the warp core, there's no more loop, no more Ash Twin project. If you die forever. Maybe you can't be a superhero and stop apocalypses, but there's at least one thing you can do. Complete the Nomai's mission. You've collected the coordinates of the probe that found the eye. So you go to Dark Rumble, where you make your way through the fish monsters. You hold your breath because one single movement will mean your final death. Once you're out of their reach, you head for the vessel. Its wreckage is still inside Dark Rumble, and the ship's old warp core has been destroyed. But now you have another one, the warp core of the Ash Twin project. You attach it to the vessel, enter the coordinates of the eye, and activate the teleporter. You are on the eye of the universe. Going on the eye is something strange and personal. Even today we can't really agree on its definition, or even on what you experienced there. It could have been the first star or planet that led to the creation of the whole universe. By going on the eye, you've given the universe a second chance. You have recreated one in your image. Like all things, the end is also synonymous with creation. Life is a permanent cycle. You, a powerless young astronaut who accepted the fate of death, allowed the world to rise from the ashes. Everything you experienced on your galactic journey, all your emotions, encounters, and discoveries, helped to recreate an even better world. Even if the cost was high, you accepted the cycle of nature. Everything must come to an end, and everything must have a beginning. The crackle of the fire, the smell of toasted marshmallow, warm under a blanket, but a morning breeze quite cool. The earth under their feet, grass, mud, moss, leaves. Next to them, the night song of the grasshopper. In the distance, the sudden sound of a geyser, covering the water flow of the river. A reassuring voice of a friend. Wake up, little one. It's time. And then a new astronaut opens their eyes.